Good evening. I hereby call to order the October 26th, 2015 council meeting of the City of Mayfield Heights. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. DeJohn?
Present.
Mr. Mano?
Here.
Mr. Mercurio?
Here.
Mr. Monaco?
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Here.
Mr. Sharia?
Here.
Mrs. Teresi?
Here. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. We will now move on to the acceptance of the minutes of our meeting from October 12th, 2015. I hope everyone's had a chance to review the minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, seconded by Mr. DeJohn. Are there any suggested changes, amendments, or deletions to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of council meeting of October 12th, 2015 have been approved as written. We will next move on to correspondence and announcements. Does anyone have any correspondence or announcements to share? I just have one short announcement, and that is that Mrs. Sabetta and I and the mayor and Joe Newman, who sits here in our audience, we're all at the community building on Friday, October 23rd, to listen to Claire Posius and Christina Zidnarsik from the Chagrin Valley watershed and Euclid Creek watershed explain the importance of collecting rainwater. And we watched these two women, along with 14 members of our student council from Mayfield Middle School, build a rain garden right at our community building. So I see Service Director Joe Finaro in the audience. I'd like to personally thank him and his team of service department workers who did a great job in preparing that area for the children. They did a great job. I think they had a lot of fun, and if you're ever at the community building, take a look. It's to the right side of the entrance of the doors. It's beautiful, and they did a terrific job, so congratulations to the kids, and we want to thank Claire and Christine for their hard work. That concludes my announcement. Is there anyone else who has anything they'd like to share? Then we will begin with reports of officers, and we will begin with the mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening. I wanted to start by recognizing the Mayfield School students also. They did a great job on the rain garden, but also there was approximately 800 of them that took to the streets to rake leaves on Friday, which was a pretty amazing accomplishment. They did a great job. And speaking of leaves, be sure to rake yours to the curb in a timely manner. As you know, it's hard to make trips back to the same neighborhood over and over again, so it'd be nice, to kind of stick to a schedule as far as the leaves go. And older adults in need of assistance with leaf raking should contact Community Partnership on Aging at 216-291-3902, extension 213. Medicare open enrollment takes place October 15th through December 7th. During this period, you can change your Medicare plan and or your prescription plan. Plan details and your health conditions change year to year, so an annual review is important so that you are prepared to get the care you need when you need it. Community Partnership on Aging has a certified counselor and other outreach staff who are standing by to help you understand what options are available. And you could call 216-291-3902 to schedule an appointment. A Veterans Career Expo will be held on Monday, November 9th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Quicken Loans Arena. Employers will be on site. Pre-registration is encouraged. And for more information, you can call Josh Collins at 216-898-6102, or you can go to Joshua. You can go to joshua.collins, that's COLLINS, at jfs.ohio.gov. Mayor Cicero was honored recently at the Senior Transportation Connection's 10th anniversary celebration. It was my pleasure to offer a proclamation recognizing Mayor Cicero's service on the STC Board of Directors since its founding in 2005, and its board president from 2006 to 2014. We wish Mayor Cicero the best. Compliance Standards Officer Lorna Zeller, Finance Director Bob Tribby, Lieutenant Rodney Leonard, as well as Service Director Joe Finaro, and I had the opportunity to meet with representatives of the Ancora Group on October 15th and tour their facility in our corporate headquarters. We're fortunate to have such a successful business in our community, and it was a great opportunity for Lieutenant Leonard to take a look at the building and get an idea for safety in the future. I also had the opportunity to administer the oath of office to Special Patrolman Michael Smith, and I wish him safety and success in our city. The Halloween party and the Mayor's Community Council Pancake Breakfast were held this weekend. It was a pleasure to spend time with friends and neighbors, and I want to thank everyone who helped, including the Parks and Rec Commission, who always does a great job, and the Mayor's Community Council with the pancake breakfast, but also some members of the Parks and Rec Commission, including the Director, Sean Ward, Service Director, Joe Finaro, helped in coordinating the rollover from the Halloween party to the pancake breakfast, so I want to thank them for all their help. You guys did a good job. Remember, door-to-door Halloween trick-or-treat will be on Saturday, October 31st from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in our city. Please illuminate your porch lights if you plan on participating, and please drive cautiously that evening, as there will be a lot of children in the street. Finally, remember that the general election will be held on November 3rd. Mayfield Heights residents will be able to decide whether the city will have the authority to aggregate the natural gas and electricity used by residents and small businesses. For detailed information on aggregation, please visit our website or the kiosk in the City Hall lobby. In addition to the aggregation issues, there are 3 proposed city charter amendments on the ballot. These 3 amendments pertain to elimination of term limits for the office of mayor and the members of council, and replacing the December mayoral runoff election with a nonpartisan primary election in May. There are also 5 candidates vying for 3 council seats in our city, and 3 candidates vying for 2 school board seats in our district. In addition, the ballot includes 3 statewide issues, which are a proposal to change the system of creating political boundaries, the commercial production and sale of marijuana for recreational and medicinal purposes, and an anti-monopoly amendment, and 2 countywide issues, which are a proposed extension of the excise tax on cigarettes for Cuyahoga arts and culture, and an amendment related to internal auditing of Cuyahoga County. Please educate yourself on all of these matters and be sure that your voice is heard. For further information, you can contact the Board of Elections at 216-443-VOTE, which is 8683, or visit www.boe.cuyahogacounty.us. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions for the mayor? Mr. Monaco.
Mayor, I just would like for you to expand on the NOPAC issue also. It's going to be on the ballot.
That was the aggregation,
Yeah, but
electric and aggregation.
would you just like to expand on it as to?
The aggregation is an opt-out aggregation program, which will, if is passed by the majority of residents in the city, will mean that we will use our buying power, since we will be grouped with a large group of communities, to save on natural gas and electricity as your supplier. Opt-out means that once it's voted on and if it's accepted by the residents, a resident who wishes not to participate will have to opt out of the program. and a card will be sent, and information will be sent out. Well, there's a lot of information out around now, but also at the time, your ability to opt out will be communicated to you, and at that time, you will need to opt out. And if you do not do it within the first opt-out period, you will have another option for electricity. I believe it's after a year, and gas, I think it's after 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but there is no opt-out fee, and there's also no fee for us to participate. So that's kind of the program in a nutshell. I would really encourage everyone to take a look at that in depth, either through information we have here or online.
Thank you, Mayor. Anything else for the mayor? We will next hear a report from our Director of Law, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have no report this evening, but I would like to note that it was included in the agenda package that Cosmo Eastgate, on behalf of Winking Lizard, has requested that the 3 pieces of legislation regarding confirming the Board of Zoning Appeals granting of the variances be held this evening, and rather than holding them, I just suggested they be placed on first reading. The individual who would be making the presentation could not be here this evening, so he requested they be held. Secondly, I would request that council have an executive session at the end of the public portion of the meeting to discuss pending and imminent litigation. That's all.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Murphy? We'll move on to our report from Director of Finance, Mr. Tribby.
I have no report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Tribby. Are there any questions for Mr. Tribby? Next, we will move on to reports of committees, commissions, and boards, and we will begin with the Building Committee, Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Mano? Moving along, we'll move on to Finance and Audit Committee, Mr. Mercurio.
Thank you, Madam President. We have a resolution on the agenda tonight, which is the final piece for the application for the Community Development Block Grant. And we can discuss that if anyone has any questions when that comes up on the agenda.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Mercurio? We will move on to our Legislative Committee, Mr. Monaco.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Monaco? Next, we will move on to Public Works and Services Committee, Mr. Sharia.
Thank you. I have a report. Leaf collection is underway, and the service department began last week, and both leaf trailers will be out beginning next week. Last week, the middle school student council volunteered. They pitched in, they completed the rain garden at the community center. Also, there were 800 students that went door to door down Ridgebury and other areas of the city, raking leaves for residents. Somehow, they missed everybody on Larchmont. The department also built a hayride on a trailer, took students for a ride on Friday afternoon. And the Parks Department has started to paint and clean the baby pool. Can you believe it? They're already thinking about next summer. We haven't even started fall. Last week, the night crew took down the fountain by the bocce courts, and that'll be stored during the winter. And they also took down all of those dying flower baskets that have been hanging on the post. Next week, the road construction on Longwood should be completed. And recently, the Service and Public Works Committee had another meeting reviewing the bids on solid waste and recycling. I believe we've agreed to have another meeting. Now, that concludes my report. I want to thank everyone this time for your time. Until next time.
Thank you, Mr. Sharia. Are there?
Hey, no, my
Of course they do. We all know. Does anyone have any question for Mr. Sharia? Okay.
Not at this time.
He's also our entertainment, in case you haven't noticed. We'll move on to our Recreation and Parks Committee, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. The Halloween Bash was held on Saturday. This long-standing city tradition was well-attended and a large success. 100 children received lunch in a trick-or-treat bucket, a pumpkin, and their picture was taken. The auxiliary police officers were on hand passing out candy. Children were able to see and sit inside a fire or dump truck. A big thank you to all who worked, helped, and volunteered their time to support this event. Mark your calendar for the 9th Annual Craft Show on November 8th from 10 to 4 p.m. at the Ross DeJohn Community Center. Admission is $1 for all ages. We will have about 30 vendors and concessions will be sold. November 10th's Fall Fest, a themed adult luncheon, has 40 adults already registered. They will be serving a Thanksgiving dinner, and Frank Cardone will be on hand for entertainment. Reservations are still being taken, and the cost is $10 per person. Our November lunch brunch will be going to Applebee's on November 18th at 11:30. If interested, please make a reservation. Call 442-2627, area code 440. At the Wildcat Sport and Fitness, the fall session number 2 of indoor swimming begins November 7th. Registration is today, and you can call 440-995-6840. Girls on the Run is a life-changing nonprofit program that inspires girls ages 8 to 15 to be joyful. It will cap off this fall season by holding a celebratory 5K run. The event is Sunday morning, November 15th. Girls on the Run Northeast Ohio serves girls in Cuyahoga, Medina, Lorain, Portage, and Summit counties. Over 600 girls participate in this fall session. The 5K will start at Mayfield High School, proceed Lander Road, and then on to Ridgeberry Boulevard, Route 91, and then back to the high school. Lander and Ridgeberry will be closed from 9:30 to 10:30. Please use alternate routes during this time. The next Wildcat Sport and Fitness is the place to go. They have a great lineup of exercise classes from youth to seniors. Please stop in and learn more or call 440-995-6840. The next Parks and Rec meeting will be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. in council chambers. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Are there any questions for Mrs. Sabetta? We will move on to Safety and Transportation Committee, Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. The fire department is still flushing city fire hydrants. Signs will be posted at the end of the street 3 days prior to the flushing of these hydrants. You can also check the city's website, fire department section, hydrant flushing, if you wanted to find out a tentative schedule. Please keep in mind these are tentative schedules and that emergency calls will always take precedence. CPR classes on how to learn how to use an AED AED will be offered on November 9th. For more information, contact Captain Dennis Linsky at 440-442-1214. Just a reminder that the no texting and primary offense seatbelt laws are now in effect. The PD is working to make the public aware of these by posting signs to remind you to buckle up and wait to text. See it, hear it, report it. I've talked about this many times. And again, this past week, to show you how this has helped our city, this past week, there was a burglary at a house, and because of an outstanding citizen who saw a suspicious person jump a fence carrying a pillowcase, reported it to the police, and they were able to apprehend this person, and currently this investigation is ongoing. You know, the citizen wrote down the automobile plate number and called the police right away, and again, this is something that is very important, where a resident has seen something and reported it, whether it was suspicious or not, but they thought it was and reported it. So it helps our police department. A lot of these crimes are solved this way by a resident reporting something like this, so it's very important. See it, hear it, report it. During the August 17th council meeting, this council authorized the sale of 5 city vehicles. Am pleased to announce that these vehicles were sold on govdeals.com for a combined net total of $24,605. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Dijon. Are there any questions for Mr. Dijon? Okay, we'll move ahead to our Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. Mercurio.
Thank you, Madam President. We have several items on tonight's agenda, and as the law director suggested, I will be making a motion to place these on first reading. And that completes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Mercurio? We'll move on to the Commission on Aging, which is my commission. I just have a short report. Just one reminder that our next social dance will be December 5th at the Ross C. DeJohn Community Center. And the next meeting for our Commission on Aging will be held in council chambers on Tuesday, November 3rd at 5 p.m. And that concludes my report. Are there any questions on the Commission on Aging? We will move on to our Planning Commission. Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. We had a Planning Commission meeting last Monday night. Cosmo Eastgate came before us to discuss the Winking Lizard restaurant project. This will be a new building, proposed new building at the back of Eastgate, and it was very well received by the commission. Also, Villa Serena, the Maroos Brothers Construction came before us for an additional 50 spaces to be added in front of Villa Serena. That also was approved, and that's on the agenda tonight for a vote. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. DeJohn. Are there any questions for Mr. DeJohn? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Mayfield Union Cemetery.
Thank you, Madam President. Roger Remnick, the cemetery caretaker, has been paid for his 2015 work and care at the cemetery, and a meeting for a proposed budget for 2016 will be scheduled for the cemetery trustees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. We'll move on to the Ad Hoc Committee. Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We have had a meeting here last Thursday evening, and Mr. Majewski did a fantastic job in reformulating the new fence ordinance. There was a couple things that needed to be kind of cleaned up language-wise. He is going to forward the final draft to you on that, and then from there it can go to the law department for the legislation to be written. The only thing that's left to do on that is going to be the reconstruction of the fee schedule for fees and fines, and rather than that being part of the ordinance, it will be kept separate. Mr. Monaco will have a legislative committee meeting. We will make the schedule of fees up, and then that will go to the building department
Any questions for Mr. Mano? Mr. DeJohn?
Yeah, will that go to the planning commission first before it goes to Mr. Murphy? Or will it go to Mr. Murphy first and then the planning commission?
It can go there if you wanted to. If there's things in there that you want to discuss, that's fine.
Mr. Murphy, do you have a preference, or?
I would say, once I turn this on, since I have to prepare the legislation, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have the legislation in a format that then can be reviewed by the planning commission for, say, next to final approval before council. So it should probably come to me next. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we will move on to our public portion. Pursuant to Section 121.02, Section H8 of the codified ordinance, each person will be allotted 5 minutes to speak with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for the entire public portion. Although it is not a time for public debate, this is your opportunity to come forward with your concerns and address council. Please note that there will be no personal attacks or comments allowed. Also, if you're here in connection with an agenda item, this is your opportunity to address council. If you would like to be heard this evening, please raise your hand and be recognized and approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. It is now 7:37 and we will open the public portion. Mr. Manfredi.
Good evening. Good to see each and every one of you. I haven't seen you for a while. My name is Gino Manfredi. I reside at 6755 Mayfield Road, apartment 218 in Mayfield Heights, known as Gates Mills Villa. This morning I received a call from management to notify me that the Winking Lizard Club wants to build a club in our backyard. My balcony will be facing it. I have a diagram just exactly where it's going to be.
Excuse me, Mr. Manfredi, move it up a little bit. We can't see it. Put it on the, there you go.
I would like the mayor and the council to answer the following questions. Number one, has the property been bought or is it leased? Number two, have any permits been issued? Number three, will alcohol be served? Number four, what are the hours of operation? Number five, have the building and parking been established? Number six, has any approvals been given? Number seven, this type of operation is usually conducive to a younger crowd. Therefore, it's going to be much more noisier than it normally would have been. What are the restrictions for clubs with alcohol near a residence? I'm speaking of specifically Gates Mills Villa, which is right behind me. It would be less than 1,000 feet from my apartment as I speak. Also, it'll be affecting Gates Mills Club and also Manor Care. This building is going to affect over 1,200 people. Most of them are in their 70s, 80s, 90s. Many people are bedridden. Which one of you people would allow this to be near your home? We have already been disturbed by the salt bin, which is directly behind me. Why can't this proposal be voted on by the general public? I don't understand that. Why suddenly we find out just today that the Winking Lizard wants to build. How come it wasn't in the paper? How come nobody knows about it? I would like to know if this proposal could be voted on by the general public.
As you see, there are some visitors here in the third row over there. They are here to sponsor me. They're very upset because of what's happening. We just found out about it, and this establishment is practically next door to my home. I moved into this establishment to have peace and quiet in my elder years. And I think if you allow this, it's only going to create a lot of problems. And why couldn't they decide to go near Target, away from housing, away from people that are living? You know, Manor Care have a lot of very sick people. They'd never be able to handle this. I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manfredi. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Crystal Rosa. I reside at 6360 Maplewood Road. I am here to clarify and or amend your ordinance against livestock. I have miniature pigs. We don't consider them livestock. They're not farm hogs. They live inside my home. They're well cared for. They're like having a dog or any other animal. I have provided you with a small portfolio of the ordinances that I would like to amend and or change, and also some facts about miniature potbellies living inside your home. I have had miniature pigs since 2010. I resided in Mayfield my entire life. I have walked my animals around the city. People have taken pictures. I've taken them into stores. I don't really know much of the public that does not know that I have them. I want to know why I guess I feel like I'm being targeted because I have complained numerous times about the wall that resides behind my house that fell over a year ago. I have animals, whether it be pigs or I have dogs too. My dog escaped my yard. The city picked him up. I was fined, but it wasn't my fault. The cement wall that fell a year ago has yet to be put back up. I tried to work with the city on the wall by calling. I was pushed off. I was told that it would get done, that they were speaking with the owner that was supposed to provide to be put back up. I asked about putting temporary fencing up. I was mandated as far as what I was allowed to put there because they didn't want it to look bad. This is one of my miniature pigs. Her name is Dottie. She lives in my home. I've also provided you with pictures of my yard. I have ample room to have them. They do live inside my home. They do not graze all day. They do not get to be 900 pounds. They probably won't even reach 100 pounds. Even in their body mass at 100 pounds, they won't reach any bigger than any normal size dog that any other resident has. While I want that ordinance looked at, I would also like to amend and or clarify the 2 species in any household ordinance. Both these ordinances were made a long time ago. The one for livestock was 1950s. The miniature pig didn't come along until the 1980s. And the 2 species law, I don't think you should base this for every resident. I think it should be based on the size of their yard, their proper care, their size of their home, if they have the room for it. I don't think everybody should be shot down. I'm pretty sure that you don't know every animal that lives in the city or how many people have. I do have 5. They vary in age and sizes. My biggest miniature pig is 48 pounds. Daddy here weighs 42 pounds. They're very sweet. They're extremely intelligent. You can teach them tricks just like dogs. They are litter box trained. In the summer, they do go outdoors like regular animals. We do clean up after them like we would a regular animal. In 5 years, I've never had a complaint from a resident. not once. I've lived in 2 homes with my pigs, and I've never had a complaint. I think that should have to speak for something. It is my understanding that a city worker was the one who notified the mayor's office that I had the pigs. Again, I'm not quite sure as to what the harm is in having them. So I guess that's why I'm here tonight. I've provided you with a little information. I also have here, and there's only one copy, there was a petition signed. An overwhelming amount of people, 2,600, have signed this petition for me to keep my animals. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, City Council. How are you doing today?
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Michael Ayoka. I live at 1386 Belrose Road in Mayfield Heights, of course. I'm not good with mics, but bear with me. The reason why I'm here is I'm kind of appalled that the city of Mayfield is going against this homeowner with the pigs. I don't understand why, but you know, would I own a pig for a pet? Of course I would. I love pets and all that. But I think City Council should change the ordinance to allow a homeowner to have a pig in her house. If she takes care of her property, like mow the lawn, keep her house in good shape, she cleans up after her mess, I don't see any problem with having a pig or any other exotic animals. If you take care of it, should you take that responsibility for taking care of the pet, but you should be allowed to have that. And you know, I think it's appalling that she's being singled out for this. Like I said, I'm not good in front of mics and all that, so I'm kind of stressed out here that I'm doing this, but I'm proud of myself that I'm doing this, because I lived in Mayfield Heights all my life except for 11, 12 years or whatever. And I'm proud to live in Mayfield Heights, but I'm not proud to hear that this lady cannot have a pig in her house. She has 5 of them, but she takes care of them. So, like I said, I'm appalled that she's being singled out for this. That's all I have to say, and I appreciate you allowing me the time to sit in front of all of you and tell you how I feel. Because when I saw this story on Fox 8, I was angry. I was very, very angry of Mayfield Heights for allowing the sham. But I know you guys have to do what you have to do, and I understand that, but I think she should still have her pig. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Margaret Davis. I reside at 1118 Summit. I'm Crystal's mother. I've had 5 dogs, and this, at one time, for over 8 to 10 years, never a complaint. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Mr. Manfredi, can you hold on? We have someone in the back that wants to speak. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, good evening. My name is David Abramchek. I work for Marus Brothers Construction. I'm one of the architects on their team working for the Villas Arena project, which has a item on the motion tonight for the passage of the 50-space parking lot. So I just wanted to find out if there was any questions that need to be addressed while I'm here today, and wanted to see if I could request for council to approve this as a final approval. It's on the motion for a preliminary approval, but my understanding from Plan Commission, there was no comments and no concerns, so if possible, I'd like to consider making this a final approval, if you consider that. And any questions?
We'll address the item when it comes up on the agenda, but
No questions for me then?
Mr. Monaco, do you have something?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
I have no problem with you asking for additional parking spaces. What I have a problem with is that I don't see any landscaping around these new parking spaces. It would be extremely nice if you had put like a mound with some trees on top so you would hide this from Mayfield Road and kind of enhance the property. I don't see that happening. I just see that you're taking some green spaces, putting asphalt there, and just leave it at that.
We actually will be providing landscaping. We have a preliminary landscape plan for the rest of the property right now, and we were waiting to modify that landscaping plan. Actually, I might have brought that. Once we knew that the configuration of the parking was approved. Let me see if that was here.
Well, I would like to see that the landscaping be part of the approval process.
Yeah, I looked into the requirements for the park, for the planning of this, and it had, you know, lighting, adequate lighting, and a island that needed to be landscaped. So we haven't included an island in the parking. We just don't have the design for the landscaping at this time, but I could, if you would consider it, I'd like to submit that sort of as a, you know, conditional approval. If you could approve the parking lot conditioned upon landscaping being provided. We do intend, we have a landscape architect hired to do this. So we were just waiting for the approval of the parking layout so that she only has to, you know, design the plantings one time.
Well, again, I would like to see a landscaping
Okay.
plan before I would give you my vote on it.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. No, Gina, there's one more. No, Vince, come forward. Sorry, there were so many hands that went up.
Good evening, Vince Crawford, 12340 Auburn Road, Chardon, Ohio, with Waste Management. And tonight I'm just stopping out to see you as I've been going through this bid analysis process for a little while now, and I just wanted to provide another way to look at it as I've been viewing it obviously myself and thinking about it the last several days. I thought this to give it a different, just a different viewpoint for your perspective. You know, as we've been analyzing the bids that have been submitted for the waste and recycling program, we've been looking at a big number because it's a 5-year roll-up, and we've been looking at the total numbers, and you know, they kind of affecting the decision making because we're looking at such big numbers. And the reality is the whole project is big. No matter which one of the service specs you're looking at for the bid, it's just a big number. So any variance is a big number, and it kind of affects the decision making process. So I thought what's important is to break that down and look at what is council's responsibility. And I know you guys have a responsibility to provide good value to your residents. And if you look at this analysis of looking at the service spec of the recycling program, because obviously that's what the angst is. Do we bring back recycling or not? And if you look at the current program, we don't have any of those bells and whistles. There's no recycling, there's no automated trucks, there's no carts. So to compare what you have now, to compare to moving to a different program, you're not really doing yourself justice. You're comparing a Chevy to a Cadillac, quite honestly. But if you look at your surrounding communities that have this service right now, Mayfield Village being one and Highland Heights being the other, and you compare the rates that the city has gone out and gotten with the bid specification that you've put out, and compare the $12.90 number or $12.88 number that the city could be paying compared to what the surrounding communities are paying for the same service, you guys have gotten a much better rate, much more competitive rate, and therefore you know that the value that you would be providing your residents for that service is a good value at that number. So I think that's an important piece to look at as, you know, when you're comparing the full-scale program of a weekly recycling program versus a program that we currently have, which doesn't have these bells and whistles, no carts, no automation, and no recycling. So you're really not comparing the same same two programs. This one, the next piece is, I've taken a little liberty, and I apologize, I don't have the correct number, but just working with other communities, I'm assuming that the city's annual budget is probably in the $20 million range, just a rough estimate. So if we were to take this $20 million as the yearly budget for the city and look at what this recycling program would cost, you're looking at $175,000. And that's kind of the number that haven't been looking at, because we've been looking at the 5-year number as opposed to a yearly number, and how's it going to affect the budget. And that piece, that $175,000, as I was thinking about it, you have an additional $22,000 in that spread, because you're going from program A to program B, if you will. Well, when you look at the specification to add recycling, you're also adding carts for the trash service, which you currently don't have. And that value, if you just break that down, is about $22,000 to add those trash carts to the program as well. So to really look at just what the recycling program is going to cost, you break that number down to about $153,000 a year, or even more importantly, even a smaller number, $30 per year value to the homeowner. And again, breaking that down even just a little bit further, when it, again, relating to a budget number that I can't be 100% positive on, and again, this is just a rough reference, but it's not 1%, it's not 7%, that's 0.7%. It's actually a pretty small number to be able to provide a quality program to all your residents. And I'm just hoping that, this different type of analysis, breaking it down a little bit smaller to see, comparing a program that you're thinking about going to possibly, and compare that to other communities that currently have that exact same specification. And I guess, again, if using the Chevy and the Cadillac analysis, if you were to go out and say, hey, I paid a little bit less for my Cadillac compared to your Cadillac, as a city council, I think you feel pretty proud of yourselves about doing that for your residents. And I hope this has been helpful for you. If you want, I have brought some extras to leave behind, if there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crawford. Yes, sir. Please state your name and your address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Joel Zito, 310 East 329th in Willowick, Ohio. I'm with Waste Management, and I came here to introduce myself to the council and any residents that were out here. I've been your trash hauler for the last 5 years. Had the privilege of being your trash hauler for the last 5 years. I've been with Waste Management for the past 15 years, and for the past 10 years of that 15, I've been the chairman of the safety committee at Waste Management. We take safety very important, and I've seen the changes, over the years from when I started till now. And I just wanted to, again, just introduce myself, and hopefully we continue our partnership.
Thank you, Mr. Zito.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Zito, I think we have I
That's
apologize.
okay, you can walk away. I just wanted to tell you
I
that
didn't get off that easy?
you're doing a great job, and I really thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Manfredi, I know you're biting at the bit there.
Thank you for your courtesy, Madam President. What I came up here for was to invite the mayor and each one of you council people to visit me at the building, Gates Mills Villa, apartment 218, where you can get a visual of what actually was going to happen. That's an open invitation, and I would certainly like to see each and every one of you. Secondly, I'm confused as far as the resolutions that are being voted on for first ballot tonight. And I'm confused, and maybe you can help me, because you're asking for a 2015-53, you're asking for a variance to conduct outside sales in conjunction with the patio. Has the building already been approved? How can you ask for sales if you don't even The building hasn't been approved. Secondly, they're asking that a 10-foot wall not be erected. Against all odds, we're hoping that this building doesn't go up at all. And we're going to do everything we can to try to prevent it. There's a lot of other room down far. We're not against the association. We're against where they're putting it. We're happy if they go next to Target. That's a residential area, a commercial area. And then thirdly, they're asking that no wall be put up. Well, if worse comes to worse, they're asking that ahead of schedule that no wall can be put up. And any time I've been on council, I remember where, in fact, Costco, typical, they had to put a wall up. Now, why would this outfit be given the grants that they don't have to put a wall up, and they're a lot closer to residential than the other ones? I would like answers to that. And thank you for your courtesy.
Mr. Manfredi, don't forget your drawing right there.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Mr. John.
Good evening. My name's Don Johnson. I work with Kimball Recycling and Disposal at 8500 Chamberlain Road in Twinsburg Township, Ohio. I had the privilege the other evening, October 19th, to sit and listen to your service committee discuss the recent bids that you've received for recycling and disposal. And you're very fortunate as a community. You had your incumbent submit a very strong bid, and you have Kimball, who we're not newcomers to Greater Cleveland. A lot of people may not have heard of us a whole lot, but we've been here for a number of years servicing customers out of our Twinsburg Township location. And at the committee meeting, it was safety was a big proponent from a handout from Waste Management, and Vince did a nice job, and he has great company. Waste Management is a good company. They follow safety. They're a member of the NSWMA, which is a national organization for waste haulers. Kimball is also a member of NSWMA, which the new name is, they changed the name last year, but it's National Waste Recycling Association. And I was asked by one of the committee members if maybe I could expound a little bit more on our safety at Kimball. In each of our bids, we submit an overview of our company, and in the overview of the bid specifications, and it's a big document, it does touch on safety, but it does not go into great detail. And what I did over the weekend and brought it in for each council member and the mayor and the service director and the finance director to have is an outline of some of the questions that came up at the committee meeting, but also explaining that Kimball does not have marketing literature with a lot of safety salesmanship in it. And I've learned a little bit of something here. That's something we need to develop. You learn from each bid. But what I did do is put in the letter some information that showed the Coaching the Refuse Driver #2, which is a booklet that we, as a member of NSWMA, have access to, as all the rubbish haulers that are members to that association have. And we use that as a boilerplate portion of the training that we have. And this binder right here contains all of the safety information and different things that our drivers go through to become certified to be a driver with Kimball. So at the meeting the other night, I didn't want to look like we were a second-class citizen company, did not promote safety. Trust me, we do. We have veterans that have been in the industry many years, not always with Kimball. I have been in the industry almost 30 years. The general manager at Twinsburg has been in the industry 30 years, and so on and so forth. I could go on and on, but just wanted to bring that up. And also at the meeting, it asked about the current trends at your public, or at your committee meeting about current trends. And the technology in the trucks and processing equipment at recycling facilities is having more and more automated type service where residents are provided carts for their solid waste and also for the recyclable materials. It's a trend that's fast moving all across the United States, and in Cuyahoga County, there are currently 35 communities that have the automated cart service, and I've included those communities in the packet that I've given you in your mail slots this afternoon. And Kimball's been involved with 14 of those 35. So it's something that we as a company we're one of the, we're a proponent of automated recycling. It benefits not only the communities and the residents, but also the workers, because it's harder and harder to get people that like to do manual work, and it's getting, workers' compensation issues, which I'm sure your service department has seen, are also out there as well. But I just gave that to you. You had a great bid, and you have a good incumbent to consider to pick, and you also have Kimball. And if you have any questions about myself personally in the industry or Kimball as you move towards making a decision, I welcome your email or a phone call. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard? Mrs. Bone.
Edie Mullen, 1350 Bonnie Lane. I'm not sure if Mayor DeSico shared my email, but
there you go.
Oh, did I really have to do that? I don't think I need it. After seeing and hearing what Krista was going through, my first response is really, there are enough pets. We have pets. Pets are what we need. We work way too many hours. Our children grow up way too fast that we do not provide pets. If you choose to have a pet, you love them, you cherish them, and you take care of them. These little guys have been wonderful. They have been there 3 years? 3 years. They are excellent. They are better pets, and I've seen better things come out of them walking down the street and the little kids running up to them and hugging them and kissing them than the dogs that growl. We've had one of our little Yorkshire Terriers was actually mauled in its own front yard and killed. And, really, they're pets. We take everything that happens, we live with it, we go with it. They're not livestock. I mean, really take into consideration and allow people to have their pets. It's not a lion, it's not a giraffe, it's just a small little potbelly pig. And we have dogs that are bigger than that walking my neighborhood through my front yard as I live on the corner and leaving deposits. So I just really hope that you take it into consideration and realize that they're just another little pet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bone. Is there anyone else who would like to raise their hand and be heard? It is now 8:09, and we will close the public portion. Mr. Murphy, would you like to speak?
Just very briefly in response to the comments made by Mrs. Rosa and the other pig supporters. You were cited by the city because you violated 2 ordinances which are on the city's books. More than 2 domestic animals of the same species, and having pigs, which are considered by the city to be swine or livestock and are not permitted within the city limits. When I received the Fox 8 video from Mrs. Sabetta over the weekend, I did some quick research and looked and saw that a number of the communities around here likewise have the same ordinances that prohibit swine as they're spoken of in the ordinance. State law also considers pigs to be swine and swine to be livestock. So under state law, they are livestock. Now, you've submitted a brochure, some materials suggesting changes be made, and I'm sure the council will take a look at them. But as for disparate treatment that you were cited and somebody else wasn't, you were reported. There may be others in the city who have more than 2 domestic animals, or there may be others who have a pig or 2 or 3. They have not come to the attention of the animal warden. So there really isn't a reason that you were cited other than the fact that you're violating the ordinances as they are currently written. And if council chooses to change those, that's fine. But right now, the citations have been issued. So I just wanted to clarify that you're not being singled out for any reason. It's just that you're violating the ordinances. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy. Okay, right now we will begin with resolutions, and we will begin with Resolution 2015-51. Mr. Murphy.
Resolution number 2015-51, a resolution authorizing the mayor to apply for a grant from the Cuyahoga County Department of Development and declaring an emergency. West Minor Road Improvement Project, first reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mr. DeJohn, seconded by Mr. Mano. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Mano? Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes?
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. DeJohn, seconded by Mr. Mano. We held a public hearing on October 19th. The city is eligible for a grant from Cuyahoga County. Mr. Mercurio, since you did so much great work on this, would you like to add anything?
I'd just like to thank Mr. Tribby, Mr. Fenaro, and Mrs. Zeller for all their hard work. We've been meeting every week for the past 4 weeks and putting the application together, and this resolution is the last piece of the puzzle, and we'll review it again tomorrow once this is passed, and we'll submit it at the end of the week and cross our fingers and hope for the best.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Well, I hope every day that we're searching for more and more grants, this will help tremendously save the city money on repairing the roads. So we will begin with roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes?
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Resolution 2015-51 has been adopted. We will move on to Resolution 2015-52.
Thank you. Resolution number 2015-52, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with Chagrin River Watershed Partners, Inc., and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Monaco, seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes?
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, seconded by Mr. Monaco. This resolution will allow Mr. Tribby to pay the annual fee for Mayfield Heights to remain a member of the Chagrin River Watershed Partner for 2015. Mr. Tribby, do you want to add anything?
No, we've already had our approval to pay the fee. That was paid back earlier in the year. It was part of the budget process. This is a MOU defining specifically what Chagrin River Watershed will do in cooperation with the city.
Great. They do a great job. Any other discussion? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes?
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes, Resolution 2015-52 has been approved. Mr. Murphy, Resolution 2015-53.
Thank you. Resolution 2015-53, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in granting to Andrew Hoffman, Cosmo Eastgate Limited, on behalf of the Winking Lizard Restaurant, 1355 Som Center Road, a variance to conduct outside sales in conjunction with a patio. Cuyahoga County Permanent Parcel Number 862-29-014. First reading.
Do I have a motion to place this resolution 2015-53 on first reading? Moved by Mr. Mercurio, seconded by Mr. DeJohn. Roll call on the motion to place on first reading.
Mr. Sharia?
Yep.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes,
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes, resolution 2015-53 has been placed on first reading. Mr. Murphy, we'll move on to resolution 2015-54.
Thank you. 2015-54, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in granting to Andrew Hoffman, Cosmo Eastgate Limited, on behalf of the Winking Lizard Restaurant, 1355 Som Center Road, a 10-foot setback variance to construct a new building on the property 20 feet from the south property line. Cuyahoga County Permanent Parcel Number 862-29-014. First reading.
Do I have a motion to place resolution 2015-54 on first reading? Moved by Mr. DeJohn, seconded by Mr. Mano. Roll call on the motion to place on first reading.
Mrs. Sabetta?
yes,
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Resolution 2015-54 has been placed on first reading. We'll move on to resolution 2015-55. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you. Resolution number 2015-55. A resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in granting to Andrew Hoffman, Cosmo Eastgate Limited, on behalf of the Winking Lizard Restaurant, 1355 Som Center Road, a variance to construct a new building on the property without the 6-foot masonry buffer wall along the east and south property lines. Cuyahoga County Permanent Parcel Number 862-29-014. First reading.
Do I have a motion to place resolution 2015-55 on first reading? Moved by Mr. Mercurio, seconded by Mr. DeJohn. Roll call on the motion to place on first reading.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
yes,
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Resolution 2015-55 has been placed on first reading. We will now move on to our ordinances, and we'll begin with ordinance 2015-35.
Ordinance number 2015-35, an ordinance amending the zone map of the City of Mayfield Heights, Ohio, so as to rezone permanent parcel numbers 861-30-019 and 861-30-020, southwest corner of Lander Road and Landerbrook Drive, from the current U7 headquarters or executive offices park districts to U8 office, engineering, medical, and research building districts in the City of Mayfield Heights. Third reading, a public hearing will be held on November 9, 2015 at 6:45 p.m.
Is there a motion to place this ordinance on third reading? Moved by Mr. Mano, seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to place ordinance 2015-35 on third reading.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
yes,
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. A public hearing will be held on November 9th, 2015 at 6:45 p.m. here in council chambers. Ordinance number 2015-37. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you. Ordinance number 2015-37, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract for and on behalf of the City of Mayfield Heights with the District Board of Health of Cuyahoga County, of the County of Cuyahoga, State of Ohio. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mr. Mano, seconded by Mr. Mercurio. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Monaco, seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. This is a contract on behalf of the city with the District Board of Health, Cuyahoga County. 2 semi-annual payments of $37,544. Mr. Tribby, would you like to add anything?
It's the same amount we paid this year, and it's going to be continued for next year.
Mr. DeJohn, did you have your hand up?
That was he answered my question.
Any other discussion? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes, ordinance number 2015-37 has been adopted. We will now move on to motions. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you. Motion to confirm the decision of the Planning Commission approving a preliminary site plan for the addition of 50 parking spaces in the front of the Villa Serena apartment building at 6800 Mayfield Road.
Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. DeJohn, seconded by Mr. Mercurio. Discussion? Yes, Mr. DeJohn.
Yes, I don't think we're gonna do anything other but the preliminary tonight with this vote. So I'd like to see the final plans come back to the Planning Commission with Mr. Monaco's suggestions.
Mr. Monaco.
I also have a question about the size of the parking spaces there. Can you tell me?
Mr. Abramczyk, can you come forward, please?
Good evening. The size of the parking spots are 9 foot by 18 foot. That's the,
Yeah, I would check that because I think our ordinance is 9 by 20.
okay. I'll have to check myself.
Okay.
I trust the civil engineer on this one, so if not, we'll definitely change if needed to meet your ordinance.
This is why I want to bring it up because I think it may be 9 by 20.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's it. Okay. Thank you.
All in favor of, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The motion is carried as written. We will now move on to new business or comments from council. Let's see, it is now 8:24, and at this time I would like to entertain a motion to recess into executive session to discuss imminent and pending litigation. Do I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Mercurio, seconded by Mr. DeJohn. Roll call on the motion.
Mr. Sharia?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes, we will now recess into executive session.